What's up YouTube, Jeff back again, and I'm super excited today because I have another flagship device in the house, one that I've been waiting on for quite a while, and that is the Huawei P30 Pro. Beautiful looking device in the Aurora colorway, and as usual, whenever I get a new flagship in the house, I go through the first 10 things to do after unboxing the device in case you've purchased it and you're looking for some tips on how to set it up. Huge shout out to everyone for supporting these videos all over the years, and it really makes me want to make more of these and help people out with setting up their devices. Let's get right into it. Now, the first thing that I'm going to recommend is something that I recommend pretty much with every phone, and that is setting up a secure lock screen method, which you'll find within the security privacy section of your actual device. Now, there are quite a few options you'll get walked through in the actual initial setup, like fingerprint or face recognition, but if you want to add some additional fingerprints, things like that, you can do so from within this menu. I highly recommend setting up additional fingerprints. I just got the device myself today, so I only enrolled my one thumb, but later I will actually enroll this thumb a second time and then also enroll my other thumb a couple of times, just increases the accuracy of the overall scanner. You can also allow it to access the safe and access the app lock. You can also do some things with the fingerprint scanner and privacy space, which we'll talk about later. The other thing is the face recognition. If you like face recognition, it is on the P30 Pro, but make sure you get some sort of biometric security because it is the easiest way to sort of get into your device and make sure that no one else can unlock and get your personal information. My next suggestion is also a fairly common one, and huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, which is Rhino Shield, who sent out some cases for this device. Now, the Huawei P30 Pro is a beautiful phone, but it's also quite fragile. You don't want to shatter that beautiful glass back that you've got or messed up those beautiful curved edges, things like that. So you're going to want to get a case for the device as soon as you get it. Rhino Shield has some great options. This is their solid suit option in the carbon fiber colorway. As you guys can see right there, what it looks like on the device. They also sent me the plain black one as well. You can see some of the specs right here on the front. You do have the certified MIL STD810G, the military grade spec. You do have drop protection up to 11 feet, 3.5 meters. And then you also, of course, have BPA-free packaging and also the case itself. So I'll show you guys really quick what the matte black one looks like. It's pretty similar in form and function, of course, to the actual carbon fiber that I have there, but this one just got a nice matte texture to it on the back. So they do have several options over on their website. I'm going to drop a link below if you guys want to check these out. They also have the crash guard bumper, which is another one of their very popular products. That'll be coming soon as well. They did send some of those out to me, and I'll be taking a look at those. So if you're interested, check out my channel and also check out the Twitter account so you guys can see me follow up with the crash guard bumper. But I can tell you right now, the solid suit, amazing. I've been using it for the Galaxy S10 series. I really like this case, and I highly, highly recommend them. The next thing to do on your Huawei P30 Pro is to select a home screen style. So you guys probably noticed that I do have the traditional Android sort of app drawer button here at the bottom. That is not how the P30 Pro comes out of the box. So if you go into settings and scroll up a little bit here, you'll see home screen and wallpaper. Right here, home screen style. The actual default to the box is standard. If you want to change that to the app drawer where you don't have all the apps on the home screen, which is like an iPhone style, you can do that very easily from within here. Personally, if you're an Android fan, I'd recommend, changing it. Obviously, if you're coming from an iPhone, you might like the standard setup because it's very much like iOS. Now you can also change your home screen settings in here to auto align all of your apps. You can also change the layout so you have different sizes of grids, which is nice to have that built into the stock launcher because previously, in the old days of Android, that's something that you would need a custom launcher to actually take care of. The next suggestion is another display setting. So if you head into the settings again, you'll notice right here under display, there's a couple of things that you'll want to take a look at. One of those is the screen resolution. Now the screen resolution has this smart resolution turned on by default, which lowers the screen resolution if you need to save power. You can decide if you want to turn that on or off, or you can force to run the highest resolution all the time, which is FHD+. Personally, I like to run the highest resolution all the time. Obviously, if you get into sort of a pinch with your battery, you can turn power saving mode on manually, so that's no big deal. The other thing you'll want to do is go into more display settings and then go to full screen display. Within full screen display, you can actually turn on all of the apps that aren't sort of natively running on the full screen display with the extra tall aspect ratio and force those to run that way if you want. You can also turn the notch on or off if you want to hide the notch. I know some people don't like it. That's another thing that you can do within the display settings as well. Next up on my list of first 10 things to do is to actually choose your type of navigation. If you head into the settings and go to System at the bottom, you'll want to choose System Navigation, and then there are 3 options for you to choose from. You have Gestures, which I have enabled, 3-key navigation, which is the Android default, and the little navigation dock. Now I do like gestures, but I do recommend that you play around with them a little bit. Huawei actually has a nice set of gestures where you can swipe from the left or the right to go back, swipe up to go home, and then you swipe up and actually hold to get into your recent apps menu. I personally really like this navigation system. I think it's worth giving it a shot. Of course, you can always go back to the 3-key navigation if it's not something that you're particularly interested in. Next up, you'll want to set up your notifications. So again, head into Settings, go to the notification settings right here. There's a couple of things that you'll want to take a look at. The first one is the type of icon badges that you'll have displayed for each of them. You can choose notification dots, all those sorts of things. You can also choose what's actually displayed, whether it's just new notifications or unread messages that you've sort of left there for a while as well, if you want a reminder to come back to them. The other thing is lock screen notifications. Decide if you want to show those, do not show at all, or show sort of the icon but hide the contents. Lastly, you can head into more notification settings and decide if you want your device to turn on the screen when you do get a new notification. The next settings that you should definitely tweak is the battery and power management. On the Huawei devices, there are a couple little tricks up their sleeve for those particular settings. If you head into the battery part of the settings, there's quite a few things that you want to look at. The really important one here is the app launch setting, which basically lets Huawei control what the apps can do. Specifically running in the background is the important one. If you want to make sure that you get all of your social media notifications, I highly recommend turning these to manage manually instead of manage automatically, which you can see is the default. That's going to make sure you get all of your notifications so that those apps are allowed to run in the background. Otherwise, if you leave that on automatically, I've noticed sometimes I don't get my notifications, so that's a really important one. There's a couple of other things in here, like the battery percentage icon. You can go ahead and play around with that, put it wherever you want up there in the actual menu bar. You can also turn on dark mode here, which is really important, as you guys can see right there. We're going to come back to wireless reverse charging in just a second, but I will show you guys a little more about that and talk about what you can do with that. Next up on my list is to remove any bloatware from the device. Now, depending on where you purchased it, you may or may not have any bloatware. I did buy this from Clove UK, the Unlock model, the UK model. There's a couple of things that came installed that I don't really like. I wouldn't call them, hardcore bloatware, but, it's things like Booking.com. I'm not particularly interested in that, so I can go ahead and hit the uninstall button and get rid of that particular app. Now, if you buy in other countries, there may be a lot of bloatware, especially if you import some of the Asian versions, especially if you have, you might not want a lot of those apps. They might not be bloatware in the Chinese market, but over here in the West, we might not use them, so you might want to go ahead and delete those. Up next is without a doubt one of the coolest features of the Huawei devices, and that is private space. So if you head over to private space, you'll go into security and privacy, and you'll find right here near the bottom private space. Private space basically allows you to get an entirely separate sort of partition on your phone where you can keep sort of anything that you want to keep private. It's like a whole separate account for your device. You can use it by changing your fingerprints. So I'll show you guys what I mean here. You can see my wallpaper and everything I have set up here. If I go to the lock screen and I use this finger, it's actually going to take me into my other account, which is my private space account. See, I've got a new wallpaper. It's got the default here. Everything looks sort of stock. And then, of course, when I go back to my home screen, I want to get into my regular account. I use my regular fingerprint, which is my thumb, and it takes me back into my regular account. Now, this obviously could be used for various purposes, but I do find it very useful, especially if you're a parent or something like that, and you want to have a separate partition for your child to use, maybe keep a lot of their games there, things like that. You can find some very good uses for private space. It's one of the coolest, most unique features that an OEM has come out with in recent memory. The final thing I want to show you guys is how to enable the wireless reverse charging. If you head into the settings here, go into battery again. It is right here at the bottom, which we saw earlier. If you go ahead and hit that key, you'll then be able to place the device you want to charge right here on the back of your phone. Now, I do want to mention you have to be careful. Some cases will not work with this, but I did verify that the Rhino Shield cases will work with the wireless reverse charging. Certain really thick cases out there that I've used in the past with the Huawei Mate 20 Pro didn't work. Could be just be the new tech in the P30 Pro, but that is something to keep in mind. If you have anything with wireless charging, you can turn it on from the settings and go ahead and charge up your device using your P30 Pro. Very cool feature. It will eventually turn off if you're not using it, so that is something to be aware of. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification icon so I can make future videos like this. Hope you guys will check out Rhino Shield cases again. I'll drop the links in the description below. If you guys want to follow me, social media, Twitter, also on Instagram, in the links in the description. Appreciate you guys checking it out, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.